Now, the European Union has just rolled out its 18th sanctions package against Russia, and it's the toughest yet, from slashing the oil price cap to blacklisting over 100 shadow fleet tankers. The EU says it's done with loopholes and circumvention. But here's where it gets complicated. India finds itself in the crosshairs again. Yes, in particular, this 18th round of European sanctions on Russian oil affects one of the country's largest oil refineries in Vadinar in Gujarat, which counts Russian energy giant Rosneft as its majority stakeholder. This round of sanctions also brings action against the Indian Registry of Ships, which is the fourth largest such registry in the world and also operates a majority of oil tankers currently moving Russian crude oil. So the big question then is the West weaponizing or, of course, serious about these sanctions? And what will, of course, be the ramifications in India of these latest measures? In fact, some breaking news coming in on this story. Russian exports of mineral fertilizers to India has increased 4 times over the last year. That's what Russian President Vladimir Putin has revealed. The request for increased exports comes directly from the Indian leadership, as revealed in a meeting between Putin and the Russian Association of Fertilizer Producers, President Andrei Guriev.
Наша отрасль смогла переориентироваться на другие рынки. Я хочу, например, сказать, что в Индии мы выросли в 4 раза поставки. В Африке.
Joining us live is Ambassador Suresh Goel, a former diplomat. Ambassador Goel, before we get to the main, of course, discussion, what do you make of this latest revelation that has come in? Direct exports, of course, increasing from Russia of mineral fertilizers to India. This has increased over 4 times in the last year alone. Ambassador Goel?
Yes. Sorry, Uday. The connection was not very good.
Okay.
And I lost out on a bit of what you said.
Ambassador Goel, I was trying to ask you about this latest revelation that has been made by the Russian leadership that exports of mineral fertilizers to India has increased over 4 times in the last year alone. This news, of course, coming in even as these new sanctions have been announced.
Yes. I think, Uday, if you look at the whole totality of what we get from Russia, the India-Russia trade, including fertilizers and the oil coming into the Vadinar refinery, if you look at the whole totality, and if you look at the totality of what Russia does in Europe, in terms of the oil supplies, the gas supplies, and the energy trade, energy metrics that we now have at the moment, if you look at the whole thing, I find that using sanctions basically to put pressure on one country or the other, it has not worked in the past, particularly when they relate to trade, and it is not going to work really now, because any kind of a trade sanction affects not only just the supplier, but it impacts on the entire supply chain as we go down the line. For example, if you look at the fertilizers you mentioned, the whole agricultural, the whole food security of India would depend upon the fertilizer supply chain we have got at the moment. Till we are able to actually diversify it, it is not going to be possible to change it. Oil, if you look at the Vadinar refinery, the Vadinar refinery capacity constitutes something about 5 to 10% of the total refining capacity of India. It's not going to work really. And if you look at Europe, Kazakhstan pipelines from Kazakhstan oil coming to Europe from the Russian pipelines, how are they going to work on all that? I think it's essentially a response to what the US is doing, US-Europe trade regime, pressure on European Union from the USA, and I don't think it's going to really be there for too long before people begin to ignore. Look at Iran. They have been able to survive all this. So I will not be too bothered about this kind of a pressure really.